Welcome to Quarterfinals Day 1. Spoilers for that if you haven't seen it. That is LNG versus Weibo. The most important thing that happened today is LNG completely falling apart. Bad drafts, bad micro, bad macro. We're going to see it all. Let's jump right into that. So in this game 1, LNG picking a lot of champs that I'm not crazy about. Nocturne I don't really like, Ahri I don't really like, Jhin I generally don't like, and here at 17 minutes we see kind of the first signs that we may really be struggling with this comp. Here's a level 12 Ahri onto a level 10 Skarner. Ahri gets E, both sides of Q, plus a W. That's her entire kit other than her R, and it deals about 10% of the Skarner HP, and that's with your Ahri 2 levels up. This is when we first start to worry, like, oh no, is this going to be one of those Ahri Jhin games where there's just no way to ever get through this Skarner? And here we see exactly that. We see the Skarner kind of running the map, not afraid of the Jhin damage at all, just running under turret, flashing under turret. There's just no answer to the Skarner here. Here, though, they think they have more control than they do because this Renekton from Zika is coming in, and he's going to say, I don't care if I can't deal with the Skarner. I'm just going to dive right past the Skarner and kill your carries. And so that's exactly what he does. Drive past the Skarner, E2 here, and then he doesn't even bother stunning up Ashe because Ashe has the cleanse. So he just uses the rage for the empowered Q. You can't cleanse away damage. And just flashes after Light, gets the kill there. And so even though Light had the cleanse, really good play by Zika to basically deny him any value of that just by never stunning him until that very last W before he was dead. And so here we see that same vulnerability, that Tarzan is invincible, he can do whatever he wants, but he still has an obligation to protect his carries from the dive of the Renekton, from the dive of the Nocturne. And so when you go in like this on Skarner, you leave your carries unprotected, the Nocturne can dive in and the Ahri can dive in. So if they just played a little more front to back with the Skarner in front, LNG would have never even had a chance in this game. But they do a nice job of diving the backline and getting the kill on that 80 carry, killing everybody else, and then it's too late for the Skarner to do anything because the carries have already been killed. Despite LNG finding those good angles, there's still just no damage on the team comp, and so as soon as they have a less favorable fight, here Nocturne can't find any angle at all, he just dives in onto 3. Here Renekton was chunked out a bunch before he walks in. Hung is totally caught out on the bot side. Breathe is a level up on Renekton and has the Sterix gauge, so they just can't burst him in time. So just nothing goes right for LNG during this fight. Unless they can really get that flank off and dive the backline, there's just no damage in the comp. So this game was really more of a team comp loss than that Weibo was playing way better than LNG. You still had hope at this point that if LNG could get on a real team comp, they would start winning all the other games. And so just like in solo queue, if you throw everything on Amumu, you will probably lose because he's weirdly tanky. Leona flashes in, stun, Sejuani ult comes out, Leona ult comes out, so just spending all their best spells on this tanky Amumu, and he just AoE stuns them back. And the amount of time he buys, he gets the Renata bailout. The number one rule of Yone is that he needs setup, and when you use all your Sejuani and Leona CC before the Yone comes in, then the Yone just has no setup, right? And he misses everything. Xiaohu flashes out of the way, and he hits nobody on his R. Yone always looks very weak when he's the first person to go in. At this point, though, it shifted a little bit. The Amumu is building mostly AP, so as a level 12 Amumu, now your job is to kind of do a lot of damage rather than just to tank stuff up. So here, when Tarzan goes in into 3 to use his ult, he's really trading a lot of power, right? You're trading your level 12 damage against their Leona, and you can see how squishy he is because of that Liandry's he built. So that was a really not worthy trade for Tarzan. If you're going to be AP Amumu, you have to be saving your ult for those carries, not the level 8 support. It's just a waste of your ability. And then a rare mistake from Gala here. They're so convinced that Breathe is going to keep trying to run away. Gala is desperate that he actually ease in to the Cassante and gets killed. And then this fight is kind of a disaster for everyone. Weibo don't pull off the Baron even though the 5th is coming in, so they can't really take this fight. And they wait a while, and then they kind of, once Breathe is chunked down, they pull off the Baron. But then instead of LNG finishing the Baron, they're also stalling out for some reason, and they stall so long that Weiwei then gets knocked out of the pit, and they just jump onto Weiwei kill him before the Baron is low enough for Weiwei to smite it. You can see Tarzan much better at staying on the Baron, and when they all go to dive on Tarzan, that does not work because that's an Amumu. Gets that 3-man stun up, buys all the time for Weibo to kill the Sejuani and come to his aid, and now he's the only jungler alive. He's getting that Baron. So the fight is really bungled here when Weiwei lets Breathe take him out of the pit. Weiwei needs to stay in the pit when the Baron's at 2400, period. Here, LNG bad macro calls. Yone's pushing in the top, but LNG has no wave clear with or without Yone, so Weibo just pushed so hard here on the bot. And Weiwei is so desperate to not lose the game that he just totally wastes his Sejuani ult here. There's no follow-up engage, of course, so now they just don't have this ult for the team fight. Breathe comes in and everyone focuses all their damage onto the Cassante. Leonie's using all her cooldowns on Cassante. She uses R onto the Cassante. So again, we see that same thing that if you use all your Sej and Leona on Cassante, who's going to set Scout up for these attacks? Nobody, so Scout misses everybody. So at this point, it really looks like LNG is about to lose the game. Scout gets nothing done. Luckily, Zika on the 18 Jax, they don't respect his power. And he gets the jump in multi-man stun on the carries and somehow brings the fight back. You can see Light has flash here. If he were more respectful of the Jax and expecting him, then as the Jax is jumping in, right here you see the Jax is in midair, Light could have flashed out and they probably would have won this game, but he doesn't. And then Weibo are a total disaster in this final fight. Look at the way they're letting this terrain just cut their composition in half. They can't decide whether to go up or down, and then finally when Tarzan tries to go back to his team, he gets caught out, and he's chunked down to like 20% HP before the fight even starts. This Amumu is way down in levels and gold, so really the only damage on Weibo is this Aurora. I mean, Ashe is about the lowest damage AD carry you could have at level 18. And so literally all that LNG needs to do is get on top of this Ashe, and they win the fight. And so Yone dives on the Ashe, and Zika also jumps on the Ashe. And you can see that Zika is not scared at all because he has the GA. Zika's like, please, please, I want to get this GA value. Please kill me. Somebody please kill me. He's like desperate, but Weibo just doesn't have the damage. At this point, it's just chaos. Like, no one has any idea who's going to win the series after this. They both just look like total random spaghetti flying around. Here, LNG really try to force this kind of fight under their turret, and Weiwei dives in on the Nocturne, and they just get rocked by the 4-man Orianna ult. This really, like, what LNG is doing here, forcing this fight, looks a lot like what Weibo would do. In a lot of these games, you, like, can't remember who's Weibo, who's LNG, because they play very similarly. Overly aggressive, inconsistent, moments of just, like, the most incredible micro ever, and then just throwing the game away. So in this case, it's LNG doing the throwing, rocked by that shockwave. After Weibo Gaming got that amazing early game play, then LNG got a Baron, and now they're getting a second Baron, basically uncontested, so Weibo is just giving away Barons. I cannot really express in words how much of a LPL fiesta this match was. This time, it's Weibo going for the Baron. LNG have this kind of dive comp with the Ahri Kai'Sa Nocturne. They go onto Xiaohu. Here, Ahri flashes in, and Nocturne goes onto Xiaohu, so in the comms, you know, they're all saying on Xiaohu, on Xiaohu, on Xiaohu. But when Gala goes in on the Kai'Sa, she dives to this really unsafe position, and the Xiaohu just stopwatches. Because there are 3 players here. It's hard to see, but the Nar's actually underneath this Weiwei bar. There's 3 blue people here, so Gala is dove into a very unsafe position, and now he still has his flash up, and instead of flashing somewhere safe, like he could flash down here to the left, maybe behind this wall, he could flash down here to the right where Hong and Zika will be able to peel for him. Instead, he flashes up, which is where all of Weibo are. So Gala dives where it's very unsafe and then flashes into even less safety. Just not clean play from Gala at all. Despite having absolutely horrible macro, Weibo giving away 2 Barons, the better team fighting over LNG is saving the game. Here, Zika had been hogging the Jax all series long, but Jax is Breathe's best champion. Turns out that letting Breathe have his best champion is a huge mistake. Here again, LNG is very Weibo-like, how they like to save fights that are already going badly. They try to save them. So this fight is already bad for LNG because it's a 2v3. And Zika is really like, I really don't want to go in here. Do I have to go in here? This is such a bad fight. Don't make me go in here. So he hesitates so much. But then he does decide to go in. And so it's like, you either have to commit or run away. But he really picked the worst of both worlds. And so they just lose all these kills. Here, Nautilus barely gets out from the recon. But then for some reason, he decides to go back in and dies. And then here, Sejuani's out. She could just run away. But instead, Sejuani decides to go back in and dies. So LNG is just completely crumbling. They're panicking. And then this fight is the final nail in the coffin for LNG. They catch Tarzan out. And then here, you're thinking Breathe is absolutely insane. This is a 3v5. It is kind of insane, but Breathe somehow sees the angle to jump onto the Jhin here. And what happens is that Xiaohu comes in here and lays the ult down so that they can't follow Breathe. As Breathe jumps onto Gala, there's no way for LNG to follow. They get stuck on that Aurora ult. And basically what happens is, right here, LNG could just turn and kill Weibo, because it's like 4 of them and there's only 2 Weibos here. But they're so tunnel visioned on stopping Breathe and stopping Breathe from killing Gala that they just try to follow Breathe into this corner. They don't lay any damage down on Weibo, and they just let Weibo land all of this damage down onto Nautilus. Now it's a 4v3 in Weibo's favor somehow. So just one more final evidence of how much better at team fighting Weibo is than LNG. And LNG needed to use their better macro and better decision making to win, and they just had none of that this game. And then LNG really nervous in this Baron fight. Gala opens up with the R, just shoots 1 bullet and then decides he doesn't actually want to do the R. Zika is trying to hold off 3 over here, but at the same time, Breathe is holding off people over here, and Breathe on the Jax is just better than Zika on the Renekton. So they're both trying to stall, but when the fight collapses, it just goes way better for Weibo, because Breathe can follow up on the Sejuani. All of the Weibo members have managed to stay alive, and this Yone alone with no follow-up just isn't enough. Gala just cannot get a thing done on the Jhin. They're also 6k gold down at this point. In some sense, it was too late for LNG. They had botched the early game too bad. So Weibo taking them 3-1, and you're just left with this feeling of like, I don't know if Weibo deserved to win, but holy moly did LNG deserve those losses, man. They completely fell apart. So despite the victory looking kind of dominant, I don't actually think Weibo did super well here. I think they did a little better than they have been doing in the tournament, maybe before that last day. And so while LNG gets knocked out, I definitely don't think Weibo did well enough to bump them to the A tier, and I think they did do well enough to keep them at the top of the B tier. So this tier list looks pretty much unchanged for now. If you picked Weibo to get through, I don't know who you are, but Weibo hope is still alive. I personally think they'll very likely get knocked out the next round, but we'll see how the other quarterfinal matches go. But, you know, Weibo's been proving me wrong all tournament, so who knows what's going to happen there. Really exciting upset to start the quarterfinals. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. YouTube really cares about that subscriber number if you love the content. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next quarterfinals match.